Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode on Your Image podcast. Hey, before we go anywhere, have you shared this with anyone? Please make sure that you share it as far and wide as you can because what we're here to do is to build nations, is to build generations, intergenerational family healing. It can be your inner circle, your actual family, your extended family, stepmom, stepdad, your beloved mom and dad. Listen, we all have issues somewhere, somehow, because we're humans, we're people, we all go through stuff. And at the end of the day, our mission is to make sure that we bring everybody together and we build a stronger generation, a stronger family, and a happy community. And it's not that hard. All we need to do is to ensure that we all put in the work because that's what it is. Family for me is teamwork. And I hope eventually you begin to realize that for us to thrive as a family, we need to all pull in our work and love each other regardless. My name is Coletta Ndovu, and I'm your host on this show. Mama Nation, Daddy Nation, we're all here today talking about serious, deep things, things that are affecting our communities, things that I believe should be spoken about in our families, in our communities, in our churches, in our social clubs, anywhere and everywhere. But the issue is nobody is willing to have these conversations. That's why I brought this platform to you because, like I said, I went there. I decided I'm going to create that platform because I know how important it is for us to have these conversations. Listen, the devil been trying me all week. And firstly, before we go further, I just wanted to say I do apologize that this has come in a little bit later than normal. I know every Sunday morning you're like expecting something to be dropping in that on our YouTube channel. However, how I know that this is a mandate and this is meant to be is the amount of resistance I've had just trying to make this work. But you know me, I don't give up for nothing. And for the mere fact that it's been dragging on like this and there's been so much resistance, I said, you know what? I know for a fact that this is meant to be out there. So this is why I am here promptly and I'm here to have the discussions with you. So don't you go anywhere. Sit back, relax, and let's talk. Let's have a conversation, all right? So on today's episode, I just simply want to address the question that I did in my previous week. It was actually a blog and a podcast to the men just on issues that I've personally felt were affecting a lot of men mentally, health wise. A lot of men are going through a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, these things, it's hard for people to address them, excuse me, it's hard for people to address them merely because I think, of the what people are used to. It's almost as if men cannot have certain conversations. They can't talk about what they're going through. They can't talk about their pains, their struggles. And because of that, a lot of people tend to then bottle in a lot of stuff, and it just goes unsaid. Therefore, if you look at the statistics, the amount of men that we are losing due to suicide, due to cancer, heart diseases. Look, it's alarming if you actually dug in and looked at the numbers. It really is alarming. And I'm not here to scare anyone or to get into the finer details of, oh, we've got 80% of men and all that. No, I'm just trying to bring awareness to say it's time that we make a change. It's time that we stand up as as a community, as societies, to stand up for our loved ones. I've got brothers, I've got fathers, I've got, uncles and all that. And I would want them to live as long as they can and to be there, to be happy. I don't want them to just let life pass them by, which is what a lot of men are doing. They are literally just pulling the weight and saying, let me just make it as long as I can provide. A lot of them are tired. A lot of them are exhausted emotionally, mentally, physically. It's they're just tired. And unfortunately, we are just in a phase where even women are also excuse me, I'm not sure what's going on with my voice. Women are also in a place where they're also saying, listen, even we are tired, and that's valid. But if you've got two parties that are tired, don't you think perhaps if you two pulled each other up, if you two helped each other, it would make life easier? It would make the weight, certainly, if the weight is that heavy and you've got two people pulling it, isn't it better than one? That's just my opinion. I don't know what your opinion is. Like I say, always say on this platform, drop it in the comments. Let's have these conversations. That's why this platform is there, for us to talk. So I don't know why you all are sitting there not. Type in your comments, type in your questions. Let's have these discussions. So anyway, this is what we were talking about in my previous blog, and I got really good feedback. Some man came to me, and I remember there's one that actually stood out to me, and he said, listen, these things are not being spoken about enough, because us as men are going through the most. People are telling men, and he said, he went on to say, my sister, even in the churches, we're being told, just be strong. You men don't cry. And I actually understood what he meant, because I know that. I mean, how many times when you're growing up, well, even now, as parents, sometimes you find yourself, telling your sons, or your male children, don't cry, men don't cry. And I beg to differ on that notion, eh? I really do, because I don't understand. Men are human. They are people just like me and you, because if you cut them today, they still have the same blood that you would also have blood when you are cut. So why are we then saying men don't cry? They've got feelings. Let's, I think we really, really, really need to get to a point where we are taking some of these things out of our mindset and help each other grow, help each other heal, and help each other prosper. Because if a man is being told you don't cry, so what must he do then? How does he deal with these big feelings? Because yeah, a lot of us have actually never been taught how to deal with our feelings, how to deal with these emotions, and how we are feeling on the inside. So, as I was talking to this man, one thing is certain, that men have been put in a certain box or a certain category where it's almost embarrassing to even come out of that box, because when you do, it's like you are deemed as weak, you are deemed as lazy, you are deemed as inconsiderate, or cruel, selfish, all sorts of these ugly um, words or ugly figures that they carry with, once they decide to come out of a certain box that they've been put in as a man. I know, look, I'm not dismissing the fact that there are some men that can be toxic, there are some men that can be lazy. Yes, it happens, even women too. So let's not keep it like, only men can be. All we're just saying is, in the discussion, for the purposes of the discussion that we're having, I know of a lot of men that are also doing a lot, literally a lot, where you just then begin to wonder and worry to say, when does this individual rest? When does this individual then get time to just breathe? Because he's working, he gets home, he's expected and all that. And it goes also for the women, because I'll actually address that in a few minutes. where from a woman's point of view as well, because I also then had conversations, obviously when you pose questions like this, you've got perspective, people's opinions from different sides. You've got the woman's view, you've got the man's view as well. So this is what happened. And, after having these conversations, I then posted it and I said to the men, look, if you've got something to say or you want to add on to this, let me know so that we can have these discussions. And like I'm saying, people did come through. We did get a lot of, I think the other one was just how, as a man, you're always expected to provide, and how the economy has become so harsh on everybody. So, it's not only the men that are feeling it, but also the women are feeling it, because the economy is the economy. It does not really, it's not gender sensitive. It really would just hit when it hits. So this is where I then say, and I then say it to some men, but don't you think then maybe you should be thinking outside the box, not in a condescending way or anything like that, but I'm saying to you, if the economy is not favoring you in the sense that the job that you're doing is really not providing that much, or it's not doing what it's supposed to do you not think that's why you should be maybe starting your own thing, starting something on the side, doing something to supplement, but also balancing it out at the end of the day so that the family does not suffer? Because it's one thing for a man to provide financially, but it's also another if he's there emotionally and physically. He might not always be there physically, because then it's impossible for him to try and till the land, get the food on the table, and still be there 100%. Something somewhere is going to end up, giving in. And this is where we then obviously try and find a balance, where as a man, as a woman, just try and find a balance. If you're going to put in the hours in the work, then obviously try and make sure that if you are there, whether it's just weekends, that okay, Monday to Friday, I'm busy, I'm working for the family. Understood, understandable. But in the time that you're at home, be present, fully present. Because we know well, I know of people and families, and I've had these conversations with my husband as well, where sometimes he gets home and he just wants to relax. And I actually got this a lot from a lot of men to say, listen, if I've been working so much, when I get home, all I want to do is relax. I understand that, and we respect that. But all I'm saying is, you need to understand that this is not just about you alone. There's a family involved. You've got a wife, you've got children, and they need you in as much as your business needs you, the job needs you, and all that. So you need to find ways to balance it. I always say, well, this is my principle. When I get home, unless after a certain time, we have a family tradition where we've just agreed, by the way, to say when we get home at a certain time or after a certain time, we just don't pick our calls. Those in our inner circles know after a certain time we can't call them because it's their family time. And I've made a point. I think that's one thing that my husband and I did very well. I think from the time that we got married, we agreed on certain traditions that we're going to create of our own. Obviously, having learned, growing up, how families were being run, and there are certain things we wanted to change and certain things we want to run for ourselves as a family to make our unit work, to make our family unit work. And one of it was that level of balancing work and family time. And we agreed after a certain time we just don't pick up calls, especially if it's just social calls. You can catch me any other time, but on certain times it's family time. And also in that family time we give each other time to yourself. So whether it's an hour or 2 hours, that's his time, that's her me time, and all that. It's not always possible, but there are ways to work around it. And I'm just saying this to say maybe that's all you guys need, as a family. For that couple that's struggling, for that family that's struggling, and you're feeling like you're growing apart, Perhaps all you need to do is to set aside an hour every day in the evenings to say, after all has been done, we've done the cleaning, we've done the food, the kids are maybe resting, they're sleeping, it's just husband and wife. Have an hour where you're just dedicating it to yourselves. Have an hour where you then say, okay, listen, I've got, stuff that I want to get onto, or I've got my personal space time that I just want to do. At the end of the day, it's needed, because there's no way that you can always be in each other's face 24/7 and you don't end up scratching each other. It's impossible. Yes, it's possible, because obviously you're not just going to fight out of the blue. But look, all I'm just saying is it's important that you acknowledge. Some people, personally, I don't really have that me time. The me time that I have is maybe when I'm doing my recording or my blogs and all that. I love having my family around me. I love having my kids. I love having my husband around me. But people are different. If you're a person who wants their me time, who wants their spare time, there is nothing wrong with you communicating to your partner about it, or your family. To say, even your children, they do understand. Listen, mommy just wants to take 10 minutes out. Mommy just wants to take 20 minutes out. And I feel it goes back to communication. If we're not communicating as a family, if we're not having these conversations to say, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, then how's the other person supposed to know? Yes, they can see, but sometimes because they're also going through their own things, but sometimes because they're also tired, they can look beyond that. Have you been in a moment where somebody is looking at you and you think, why are you staring at me? But they then say, oh no, actually, I wasn't even looking at you. Why? Because they're also, thinking. So it happens to anyone and everyone. All I'm just saying is find that balance. There is many ways, many ways to balance it out, even it out, and make it work. So I also had a couple of ladies come to my inbox, and somebody said something to me that really touched my heart. And I said to her, obviously I'm not going to mention names and all that, because we're not about breaking families, but building. And she said to me, listen, Coletta, I'm working 12-hour shifts, and by the time I get home, and she actually gave me a scenario where she says, most of the time I leave the house at 6:30 in the morning. So for me to be out of the house at 6:30, I would have been up at maybe 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, fair enough, which makes sense anyway, because you need to prepare the kids, there's a lot that goes in between before you even actually exit the house for women. And she says, so I've got to do all that. And then after that, by 6:30, I'm out of the house because I need to be at my first call at 7 a.m. I said, okay. And during the day, I'm dealing with this, mix really of, people and emotions, because she mentioned obviously her job, she's a carer. And she says, I'm dealing with a lot where I get to different individuals' houses, and you know what care work is. For those that don't know, it's basically taking care of the vulnerable. Excuse me, taking care of the vulnerable, taking care of people that have different types of um, things going on in their lives. So that alone can be a mixed bag of emotions, because it's a lot having to deal with people. Everybody knows how interesting it can be to deal with people. So you're dealing with that, and then you get, by the time you finish work, and also there's a driving involved in some cases. Some people, for this particular case, she said, and I'm driving, most of the day. I'm either at a client or I'm driving, and by the time I get home at 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. even, there's kids that have been waiting all day. They've got stuff going on, and I have to be there emotionally, physically. I have to be there, and mentally as well. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and I've got my husband. Maybe he's not working for that particular day, or he's doing a 9 to 5, and I just feel it would have been better if my husband helped me. I got home, maybe he's just done the dinner, or he's just helped with the kids, that their homework, or got them ready for bed, so that by the time I come, I'm not doing entirely everything. I'm just doing the minimal stuff so that I can also get to rest, and I'm fresh for him. I'm also fresh for myself. I'm also, energized for whatever else I need to do. But sometimes I feel like I'm running on fumes because, Coletta, all I'm doing is I'm on the run. It's one thing after the other. It literally is a 24-hour clock. I'm running on fumes. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I don't know what to do. And that took me aback a little, because I then began to realize, sometimes we take for granted. I just looked into my own situation. I said, wow, I'm genuinely blessed. Yes, I've got my own complaints and all that, but I believe every home and every family, you find ways to work around things for it to work for you. And I believe there are a lot of other women that are going through the same. So I'm going to address two issues here. For the family, that's, for the man that is having to, or that is in that particular situation, listen, partnership is teamwork. you know if you're going to say you are a partner, then I suggest that you be there for your partner, help where you can. In fact, take it as yourself. Put yourself in her shoes. If tables were turned and you had to do all that, how would it feel? I think maybe for those in Africa, the situations may be different. I'll tell you why. Because when we were in Africa, I had a helper, and my helper was a live-in. She lived with us. Lovely young lady that I genuinely miss from the bottom of my heart, by the way. And I once again, once in a while, I do send her a text and I tell her, "Oh, I wish you could have just come with me." And the kids do miss her as well. But anyway, I'm saying this to say, you've got a helper. I had a helper, so I would go to work. My husband would go to work. Would come back. We meet, and our jobs were, 9 to 5. So most of the time we were at home at a certain time, most of the times. And we had our weekends to ourselves. So that on its own is a very totally different dynamic, because it's easy to work around and it's easy for the family to gel, because there is that flexibility. However, when we moved over to Europe, the dynamics changed, because now not only are your working hours different, you are in a situation where some weekends you're required to work. And for me, that is foreign. I mean, over the 12 plus years where I've worked, I've never really had to work a weekend, a Saturday or a Sunday, let alone Fridays. Fridays for me, literally, at the most by 1 o'clock, I'm done. So here I am working full time, and I'm working that late, and I don't have a helper, but I'm having to still juggle and manage everything else around. It was really tough. But again, I think for me, the blessing I've always had is the fact that my husband and I have always been in a position where we've always made it very clear that if something is not working, let's sit down, let's reset, and let's see how to make it work for us in that moment. Because the truth of the matter is, you always get advice from everyone anyway. And while I appreciate advice, I've always made it a point that I take whatever advice on board with wisdom and counsel from God. So, because when people give advice and all that, sometimes it comes from their own personal hurts, and also from their own personal disappointments and all that. And sometimes they want to project their fears onto you. So I think it's important when you're in partnership to obviously have the conversations, look for what works for you, and then you take it from there. And let me just help my sisters here before we conclude, to say, in situations, I know, we've gone into this and we've talked about how I'm tired, The man is tired, the woman is tired, everybody's tired. That's a fact. We cannot hide from it. We are tired. But how do we make it work? Again, beyond the communication, I don't think it can go beyond that. For me, I think the root of it all starts from communication, because if you're not communicating your needs, you're not communicating your feelings, or the other one is actually not hearing you or listening. So it's two ways here. Let's communicate, and for the parties involved, learn the art of listening. Don't listen to just provide an answer. Don't listen to answer. Listen so that you hear what the other person is saying. That way you are able to then answer effectively and find a solution. Because a lot of us, when put in a situation like this, when a partner comes and they are, upset, they're disappointed, the first thing is you want to defend yourself. So you obviously want to, no, but it's because I did. No, it's, personally, I don't think it works. Just find ways where you can allow the person to speak their mind, speak their heart. And respect goes a long way. And it goes both ways. I cannot expect you to respect me if I don't respect you. You cannot expect me to respect you if you don't respect me. Personally, I believe it goes both ways. Respect each other. And where there is love, guys, come on, it's very, very obvious. If I love you, like I say I love you, it shouldn't be that hard for me to respect you. It shouldn't be that hard for me to hear you when you say you are hurt, you are tired, you're broken. I should be then the one that is your safe space. But we are in situations where a lot of people don't have that safety net of you are my safe space. Why? Because there's been a lot of hurt in that relationship. There's been a lot of, deceit. There's been a lot of things said that were not meant to be said. One thing I would advise is, and I know this is, very common, everybody should know this, but let me say this. When you're upset or when you're angry, if you are not sure of what you're going to say, if in fact, let me know, because when people speak, mostly it says, the Bible says, from the depths of the heart the mouth speaks. That is very true. What normally comes out of the mouth, normally it would have been either bottled in here in your belly for so long, or sometimes it's coming out of hurt, and we all know hurting people hurt others. So if you are in a position where you're feeling like, you know what, I'm overwhelmed, it's a lot, rather not speak. Because once words have gone out there, they cannot be retracted. And those words are words that are destroying our homes, are words that are destroying our partners, because we are saying words carelessly. We're just throwing words out there. Don't do that. If you really feel that you are that upset and you cannot talk, that's okay. Take time if you need to. Just don't take too long, because then you're putting another person in prison. Because not everybody can regulate and think, okay, she's upset or he's upset, let them be. I'll continue with my life. For some people, they are overthinkers. We're dealing with some people are overthinkers, because then they're going to start thinking, oh, why is he upset? Is he upset with me? Is this something that I did? Is this something that I said? So you've put them in a mental prison where they're having to deal with all these emotions and all these feelings. Whereas if you just had the conversation and said, listen, what you did to me, ABC, or when you said this, or how you spoke to me, I didn't appreciate it. It's made me feel this type of way. For me, I've always said, if people can just master the art of talking, honestly, a lot of the problems that we're facing today, we wouldn't have to face them. Families have been destroyed because Auntie so and so said Uncle so and so is a horrible human being, or they do this, how they've done that and this and that, and that has been carried for generations, where now when they've got children, their children cannot talk to this one's children, and yet these are siblings. They are nephews, they are nieces and cousins and everybody. They cannot have relationships. Why? Because the adults are fighting like cat and mouse. People are fighting for what? And 90% of the time, when you have conversations with these people and you ask them,
what is it that you're fighting about? What happened? They can't tell you. Or even if they can, they then realize it's even shameful for them to even repeat it to you, because they realize, listen, it's actually rubbish that we're fighting about this. Is it really worth it? No. So we've had generations that have been destroyed, legacies that could have been built, but they've been, excuse me, they've been destroyed because people just cannot have conversations. My brother, my sister, it starts with you, and it starts now. Just talk. Just talk. Have the conversation. There is nothing wrong with telling the next person what your feelings are, how that has made you feel. In that way, you're liberating yourself, because you're not going to carry that burden throughout to say, but they did this to me. If you had communicated, in some cases, the person doesn't even realize that they've done that to you. I can count for you the number of times my husband has said something, to me, and I've caught on strays. I've caught feelings on it. And I'm like, how can you say that to me? And I would go to him and tell him, listen, what you said when you said A, B, C, and D, it hurt my feelings because it made me feel 1, 2, 3. And then he says, oh, I didn't realize because I was just passing a comment. Yes, it might have been a careless comment at that stage, but he didn't realize the damage it would cause. But if I just bottle it and I don't speak to him and let him know how I'm feeling, then he's never going to know. He goes on, and my husband is a happy person. He would just go on about his life and do life, and he will not. Maybe later on when he realizes, okay, her mood has changed or her attitude has changed, what's going on? Then maybe we can have the conversations. And some people are just not forthcoming when it comes to having conversations. And I can say that because I speak from my personal experiences. He's always been a very reserved person, but a happy person. So he just wants to do life. And I think that's where we meet, because in as much as I'm a happy person, I want to just do life and go about it. I believe in speaking out when things are not okay, because, excuse me, because I genuinely believe when we have a conversation, I free myself and I don't assume things. We can move on. But a lot of people are getting stuck in things that are not said. And because things are not said, you'll go on for years hurting and generations, the world that you're supposed to be creating. Listen, I actually thought of something, and as I was talking about, because somebody mentioned to me real quick, somebody mentioned to me to say, Coletta, I make, if not 3 times the amount of money that my husband makes, and sometimes I feel like he doesn't say it, but I sometimes feel like he resents me for it. And I was shocked, because I'm like, what manner of human being would want to resent their partner for making that much, because for me, this is how I view it. If my husband is the brains behind us creating wealth, I will do anything and everything to help him and be a helper and aid him to make even more. Vice versa. If the wife is the one that is the brains behind making the money, or somebody that is gifted in that manner, my brother, it's within your best interest to hold that woman's hand and run with them. For your sake, for your generation's sake, for your children's sake. You're not doing anybody a favor by resenting them or wanting to feel like, oh, they're going to think they're better or they're going to do better. It's not a competition. It's a teamwork. It is not a competition. I think let's make it very clear. It is teamwork. If you're in a partnership, you're in a marriage with somebody and they are gifted in a manner that is aiding the family, help each other. I know as men you've got your ego and you've got this and you've been told, oh, a man should provide. But in some cases, maybe the woman is the one that has been called to do that part of the business. Even the Bible talks about Proverbs 31 woman, and it says the woman goes to suss the land. She is the one who's looking out at the land. How is she doing this if she doesn't have the money? or the brains to do it, or the ability to do it. Do you get what I'm saying? So if the great book itself is telling you that the woman is doing it, this is not an advocacy for women to say men should let the woman. There's some women that actually don't know how to do it, and they are okay supporting their men, because you know what? The man is the one that's actually doing it. He's the one who's buying the land. He's the one that's okay. Different strokes, for different people, and that's okay. All I'm saying is understand each other, understand each other's strengths, and ride on those strengths to make it work for yourselves as a unit, and you will prosper. Because that's what we need to do. We need to build our own generational wealth for our children, our children's children. Gone are the days where parents die in debt and all they're leaving their children is debt. Gone are the days, not in this age, where there's all these materials that can aid people to be better. So whether you went to school, whether you did not finish your O levels or whatever it is, you did not go to college or whatever it is, there is always ways to work around it and create and build wealth. There's no two ways about it. That one is clear. It is finish and clear. It is there. So let's not make excuses of, but I never got to finish school. I never got to... Come on. At the end of the day, all I'm just saying is, if you put in the weight, I put in my weight. At the end of the day, we are a team and we will do exploits. A lot of people get stuck in not being able to exceed or excel as a family because you are at a point where you are just trying to prove to each other, I can do better, I can do that. You're wasting time, you're wasting a lot of energy, and that's not necessary. So all I'm saying is, let's work together as a team, let's work together as a family, and let's build generational wealth. Because at the end of the day, you do not want to die and you wish you had just done better. You do not want to leave your children in poverty. If we can do it together as a family, as a unit, we're going to create better generations to come. We're going to create a better environment even for our children. And for us, we're going to live a happy, healthier lives. Go back to communication. Go back to the drawing board. Look for what's working, make it work. What's not working, put it aside. Look, gone are the days where we follow tradition to the T. Some things are not working in the times that we're living in now. And there are certain things that you're just going to have to put on the side and do what works for you as a unit. Do what works for you as a family. That's the only way we can prosper. So, look, we can go on and on because this is a very deep conversation, wide, and there's a lot to bottle off, but I just want to say thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for tuning in. But before you go, remember, share this with as many people as you know, because remember I said, we are here to build generational wealth. We are here to restore and heal families. We are here to make sure that at the end of this, we have stronger, healthier, and happier people that are prospering, that are becoming who they are supposed to be, becoming the best version of themselves. If you've got a topic that you feel it should be discussed, please, by all means, send it into my direct emails. I'm going to put all the links into the description below. So send it through. I've got my personal email there. I've got my blogs and all that. Oh, by the way, please, if you can, find a minute, get onto the website, ownyourimage.co.uk, look at the blogs. Some of these things that we're talking about in this podcast, they're actually on those blogs and they are discussing this at length. So take your time, go in there, have a look, and be blessed. Thank you, and until next time, I will see you. You have a lovely day together.